which one do I like the most? Which one is the one for you? For me, it's... What's up, guys? Man here with another music production video. And in this video, I'm going to show you what to look for when picking your first hardware sequencer. Coming up next. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Keystep Pro. The cool thing about the Keystep Pro is that it's super simple in connectivity, right? So let's get to the connectivity. With the Keystep Pro, you're actually able to control CV outputs. You have your modulation, gate, pitch, sustain. Then you have your sync options with external clock in and out. Then you have your MIDI in and out, and then you have the switches over here where you can like actually use this as your master control and your master clock, and then you can send the signal out. For this first demo of this workflow, I am going to use the digitone, and we're gonna send signal from MIDI. I'm gonna plug it in, and then as of like right now, if I hit any of the keys, we should be getting some signal, right? So you can manage, the octaves. So yeah, pretty straightforward. You can use this also as a MIDI keyboard plugged into your computer via USB. So the way that you would set up a sequence with this one, right? First, so for the sequences, I'm going to clear everything, and then I am going to record, just a simple sequence so you guys can see. Okay, so now we press stop. And now I'm going to press play, and all the steps or the keys that I pressed are going to be played. So that's pretty much how you set up a sequence. So the other way that you would do it, right? The arpeggiator, and this is pretty cool because it's super simple. So if you want to see, if you want to press a couple keys in a chord, and then you're going to press play first, and then you're going to press them, right? So you have different options on playing arpeggio. Okay, this next one that I'm going to talk about is the Beatstep Pro. The cool thing about this one is that you can control with two sequencers, two different modules in your Eurorack. You can send them pitch, velocity, and gate to two different modules. And then with the drum gates, you can actually control drum modules that you might have in your Eurorack, which is really fun because then you can use the pads to finger drum and make patterns as well. And then you have the in and out clocks. So technically you can send clock to another unit or another sequencer, and then you can send more information out. So you can actually control your entire rig with this baby right here. The other thing is the MIDI out and MIDI in. The only difference is that you need this type of plug, but it comes with the Beatstep Pro. And then you can control anything from your computer through USB. So let me walk you a little bit through this workflow right here. I was here in rate. You can control the BPM. So we're gonna just do 120, and then I'm gonna use sequencer 1 to control the digitone again. So the cool thing, right, is that the pads light up, and then you're able to change the type of scale that you're gonna be using. So let's use a minor, and then all the keys that you're gonna be using are gonna be minor in that scale. You have your octave up and down. Then you have the steps for the sequence, right? So I'm gonna use project 1 because that one starts for me in C1, right? So I'm just gonna load a couple of sounds here, and then I'm gonna play the sequence, and that's going to affect the digitone. Another cool feature about this is that I'm just gonna put some random ones here, right? And then this one, the probability of them playing for current tracks, so the probability, and then also the randomness for this, and it's gonna generate something completely different. So it's pretty neat. So see, it's changing the pitch and it's changing everything. So it's kind of unique. Okay, so the other way that you would do this as well, right, is so you can actually like play something. So, and then you hit record, and then you click play, and then you can like record it in, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can sequence, you know, one machine that you could sequence with a second sequencer, another machine after you change the MIDI. You know, you could control drums through here, which is really cool. So imagine if you're moving from the computer, you know, and you want something like that's more hands-on, you could control two sequences, and then you can actually control a drum rack. If you're using Ableton or if you're using Logic, then that'll be pretty awesome. So this next one that I'm gonna talk about is the Dark Times by Doepfer. This is one of like the most analog step sequencers that I own. And what I like about it, man, it's just so simple to use. It's amazing. Connectivity wise, you know, you're able to control an entire modular synthesizer rack or other synthesizers that use CV. And then you have your MIDI in, MIDI out, USB. You can actually control computer synths or soft synths with it. And it is tiny. This is really tiny. I did an entire video on explaining like each connection and everything about this. So I'm not gonna go too much into this. So cool thing about this thing is that it's so simple to use. Has some similarities to I think all of the sequencers, but this one's pretty similar. You know, the ability for both to control, you know, like CV and like all this other great stuff. I think they're pretty similar. Let me plug it in. Let me show you a little bit of the workflow. All right, so let me show you how this thing works. So we're gonna be using the Digitone, like we have been using this. And yeah, let me get it started. Let me turn all of them off because then you guys can see how everything is affected. So right now we only have one on. So as you can see, this is going through the entire 16 steps. Then I'm gonna set this one at random, so you'll see this jumping around, like whatever. But since I don't have any triggers happening, it's not working right. So I'm gonna turn some on. So yeah, you can generate a groove super easy. If you're looking for something that's going to help you get a little bit more creative, and you're thinking, okay, maybe later on in life I want to get modular and I want to work with MIDI and all this other stuff, but I don't really have the time to learn, and I just want, you know, like learning curve to be really small. I think this one's it. I think this is one of the easiest ones that you will be able to use ever. So this sequencer is not only a sequencer, it's also a sampler. This is probably one of like my favorite machines to use when I'm making music. So how you connect this? Use with MIDI. Then you have your inputs, you know, when you want to sample something, and then you have your Q ins, Q outs. You can use this thing as an effects box. You can use it as like anything you want, pretty much. It's really amazing. You can DJ with it. I have a video somewhere how to DJ with this machine, and it's just one of my favorites. So let me plug it in. So let's get to it, right? So the first track has this sound, track 2 has this bass sound, then we have this kick on track 3 and track 4. We have this going on, the hat. So the cool thing is, as you can see, I have 4 tracks that are affecting that machine by itself. So like if I would to like bring in my Analog 4, then if you hear any snoring, guys, sorry, it's my bulldog. Then you can control the Analog 4 with the other 4 tracks and just use one machine to control them all. So yeah, let's set up a pattern. So I'm gonna use track 1 to do a step sequence pattern, or track 2 or MIDI track 2 to do an arpeggiated sound. Let's set up that arpeggiator. So I'm just setting the length to 5. This is going to be moving around because it's at random, so it's going to be generating like a really interesting pattern with the bass line. And then the kick, I'm going to set one trigger where every kick should be. And then for the hats, all hats, right? So we're going to start with the bass line. So now this is going to be with the step sequencer. Then we're going to use the kicks and some hats. So just like that, you're able to generate a sequence with the one machine. Or you could, so technically you could be connecting like 4 different machines. So you could be controlling, you know, like other drum machines, synths in your computer, external synths and all this other stuff with this machine. And then, you know, you can use it as standalone and sample and do all this other great stuff. Amazing machine. The next machine that I want to talk about is the Digitone. This is also a sequencer, right? A step sequencer. You do have a synthesizer as well, which is kind of cool, but you can actually sequence more machines with this one at the same time as you're using the 4 voices of this FM synthesizer. So I'm going to use the Analog Four right over here to be sequenced by the Digitone. You know, how would you connect this? You know, you can use it to actually like control like software synths with the USB. I'm gonna connect it with the MIDI in, MIDI out, so you guys can see. I mean, it's pretty similar to the Octatrack, how you control it. All right, so let's set up a sequence. I'm just pressing buttons here until it's gonna be C5. All right. Okay, this is for track 1. I'm muting it. You can actually not use the arpeggio function to send MIDI arpeggio to like a synthesizer. You would just have your usual MIDI step sequencer. So for this track that I have here, right, I'm gonna set some notes. And let me see for track 3. Yeah, so this one is a little bit limited compared to the Octatrack, which is kind of sad and too bad. You can still control different like 4 different machines and like, you know, like set up step sequence patterns for the synthesizers that you might be using. This one, so going back to all the different like step sequencers that we've talked about, for me it's is this one right here, because I can actually control 8 different MIDI tracks. So if you look at just right here, I could control these 2 synthesizers. So brings me to a question: is there such thing as the perfect sequencer? All right, guys. Well, let me know what you think. I hope that you enjoyed this